They're coming after FFLs, y'all. Now that they successfully pushed for and got passed, I might add, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which is all about red flags and funding. They're having a little trouble with that due process thing. And after their something else that they pushed, the ATF's ghost gun rule, after that's been found unconstitutional and vacated, Everytown for gun safety has to do something. We have to do something. And they're pushing their president to do something, and he does everything they say. This is the next thing that Joe Biden will do because the money behind Everytown for gun safety is telling him that's what he should do. Wait till you hear this one. Before I jump into that, I want to thank the sponsor of the video, and that's Lear Capital. Inflation is killing our wallets at the pump and the grocery store. Interest rate hikes are killing our small businesses and the economy. Banks are failing. The dollar is failing. And it seems to be getting worse day by day. But the good news is that we can protect ourselves and our financial futures by holding tangible assets like gold and silver. So why wait? Do what I did and call my friends at Lear Capital. They helped me purchase my gold and silver and showed me just how easy it actually is to add physical gold or silver to an IRA or a 401k. Give them a call today. It's 1-800-260-5075 or check them out at leargg.com. Links and phone number will be down in the description for you. Once again, that's leargg.com or 1-800-260-5075. Welcome back to Guns and Gadgets. My name is Jared. This is the place that you will get Second Amendment news every single day, no matter where it happens in this country, from litigation to legislation and everything in between. And what I'm about to tell you today will have a push to become legislation. If you want to stay in the loop, all you got to do is subscribe to this channel down below. My birthday is in 2.5 weeks. It's July 25th, and I would love to hit 650,000 subscribers for my birthday. So if you'd like to do that, help me get there, hit that subscribe button down below. Like the video and share it so more people see it. And hit the bell icon so that you're notified when I put out more information or go live. Late last week, Everytown for Gun Safety published a new report in which they detail how FFLs, federally licensed firearms dealers, are basically or should be considered a connection between violent gun crime and manufacturers. Why? Because there are a lot of FFLs out there. In fact, according to their studies, there were almost 78,000 active FFLs in the country. The actual number is 77,813 as of 2022. And that's more than double the amount of U.S. post offices, with 31,132. It's also more than all of the McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, and Subway locations added together. That's a good thing because fast food is terrible. I'm guilty, but fast food is terrible. So what they're trying to say is that FFLs are prevalent. They're everywhere. That's what they're trying to get people to think. They're everywhere. And then they broke it down by the type of FFLs. You can see here that 12.3% are in cities, 55.3% are in suburbs, and 32.5% are in rural areas. But 56.9% use residential addresses. They're home-based FFLs, for about 44,353, and I will be adding my name to that list now that I am in a free state. And they also said that nearly 9,000, the actual number is 8,983 of those are manufacturers. 07s, right? So what they're trying to do is trying to make people in Congress and the president realize that home-based FFLs are a problem because they have to be a link to gun violence, right? And there's no such thing as gun violence. I've said it numerous times. They're trying to say that FFLs cause violent crime because criminals, but they never say it's the criminal, right? Because if they could focus on what the problem actually is, then it would stop their ability to push for more gun control and more gun control year after year after year after year. And that's bad for business for Everytown for gun safety. They make billions of dollars pushing gun control, and this is what they're going to have Biden do next. Here are their key findings. It says the U.S. has nearly 78,000 licensed gun dealers, more than all post offices in the United States, and more than the number of McDonald's, Burger King, Subway, and Wendy's locations combined. Over half of all gun dealers are located in residential communities, including nearly 9,000 dealers licensed to manufacture firearms and ammunition, from handguns and shotguns to silencers and other accessories. Residential license holders, some in private homes, do not need to notify neighbors or place signage indicating that they can sell or manufacture guns in their homes. 1 in 5 public elementary schools is within half a mile of a gun dealer. A gun dealer license costs less than most liquor store or restaurant licenses. Just 2.5% of gun dealers sell over 50% of all guns in the United States. There are roughly 5 incidents per day where firearms go missing from gun dealers through robbery, burglary, larceny, or other loss. Too often, these guns are diverted to the illegal market. While federal agencies recommend annual or more frequent inspections for elevators and restaurants, federal firearms license holders can expect to be inspected at current rates less than once per decade. States with the most gun dealers per capita have 10 times higher rates of guns trafficked to another state and subsequently used in a crime than states with the fewest gun dealers per capita. Here are the federal recommendations that they want Biden to push Congress to do, and they want their paid members in Congress who they donate to regularly. This is what they want them to take up now. It says Congress can update and modernize standards for licensed gun dealers and provide ATF and law enforcement with better tools to identify dealers who fail to meet those standards by passing the Federal Firearm Licensee Act. So before I get into their pointers here, the laws with FFLs, ATF is supposed to inspect FFLs once every 3 years. And some of the things in this report, and I'll have it pinned down below, but some of the things that Everytown said in this report is that in 2020, they were only able to, let me get the actual number, they were only able to inspect 7,300 FFLs, or 9% of the FFLs in 2020. Now, they don't mention anything about COVID and how everything was shut down and how inspections were canceled because people were afraid of catching the flu. They don't mention that at all, that this was a policy decision. What they say is now that we need to change the law because almost 50% of the inspections conducted regularly by the ATF in 2022, almost 50% of those are yielded violations by the FFL. Now, keep in mind that Joe Biden has changed the policy of his DOJ and ATF to zero tolerance, which has resulted in an increase of over 500% of FFL licenses being revoked because of, in some cases, very simple clerical errors, misspelled item, misentries, things that were before given a warning for. Now they're actually revoking licenses. In fact, in 2022, ATF revoked 88 FFLs. They also saw 69 FFLs close their doors and go out of business because their inspections yielded errors that could have resulted in the revocation of their license. So not only are they closing more FFLs by revoking their licenses, they're intimidating many more to just pull the pin and quit because they don't want to deal with the new weaponized ATF. Well, they've always been weaponized. Their whole existence is to go against the gun owners, right? But the increased weaponization, people just don't want to deal with it. And that's what Everytown wants. Less and less places where people can purchase firearms. The less FFLs that are out there, in their mind, less guns on the street. Now, people who buy a gun in an FFL go through a background check. People on the streets don't regularly buy guns at FFLs. Why? Because there's a transaction record. People who are doing crime on the streets typically steal their guns, and that's another angle that Everytown pushed on. They're saying that because more than half of the FFLs use residential addresses, because of the amount of lost or stolen guns from FFLs, and the fact that FFLs in residential addresses never seek the approval of their neighbors to be a gun store in the neighborhood, this needs to be addressed. We need to make it harder for FFLs in residential addresses. Some of the things they want to do is to increase the fee. Now, fees for FFLs range from $30 for curio and relic collectors to $200 for gun dealers. So back to their points. What they want the Congress to do legislatively is to increase the frequency of ATF inspections to require annual inspections for dealers most connected to crime guns and inspections every 5 years for all others. So ditch the 1 every 3 years to 1 every 5 years, unless it's somebody who has a lot of traces requested from their agents, from their FFL, then you can do them every year federally. But wait, there's more. Requiring third parties such as gun shows and websites to run background checks on all firearms sales and to inform the ATF of any sales before a background check has been completed. They make it sound like that doesn't happen. Closing the indicted dealer loophole so that gun dealers under indictment cannot buy or sell firearms. Well, we have this thing in this country called innocent until proven guilty, and you can indict a banana, you can indict a ham sandwich at a grand jury. That doesn't mean you're guilty. Doubling the cost of the FFL license. Gun industry profits have soared, with gun companies netting approximately $3 billion since the pandemic began, yet licensing fees for gun dealers have not increased since 1993. Well, they also don't mention that when you buy a gun in an FFL, the profit they make on that individual gun is minuscule because of the competition. They're not making $1 billion. They're not. They're actually, a lot of the mom and pops are just squeaking by. Requiring increased security measures such as video surveillance, modernized record systems, and employee background checks to protect against inventory losses, thefts, and straw purchases. Now that looks to increase the cost to the FFL so that they might not be able to afford to stay in business, and the modernized record system makes the system searchable, which is a gun registry. Requiring dealers to retain records beyond the current 20-year threshold, as well as establishing an electronic database of all firearm records in the ATF's possession to streamline crime gun tracing efforts. That's a direct response to the frame and receiver rule, the ghost gun rule by ATF being vacated, because in that rule, FFLs were then mandated to keep records indefinitely. Well, that's part of the rule that was kicked out by a judge. We'll see if the ATF and the government appeal, but this is a direct follow-up to that being vacated. In addition, the ATF should use the authority that Congress has already provided to conduct rigorous oversight of gun dealers and to hold dealers in violation of existing laws and regulations accountable. That includes conducting more gun dealer inspections while prioritizing rogue dealers and exercising license revocation power. Modernizing record keeping, including sustained support for National Tracing Center efforts to process paper out of business records and data analysis capabilities. Enforcing new anti-gun trafficking and anti-straw purchasing criminal statutes enacted in the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Sharing information with state and local law enforcement partners on crime gun sources and firearm trafficking patterns. Listen to this. For ATF to be effective, it must be fully funded and supported by Congress. Full funding and strong support are mission critical and will enable the ATF to build capacity and leverage resources to implement and enforce our gun violence prevention laws and regulations. Well, that's because Jim Jordan and crew are looking to strip funding from the ATF. The ATF's funding has exploded since the Obama administration. They just want more and more ATF agents so they can put more and more FFLs out of business. Now that there was federal recommendations, now they also have recommendations for your state as well. State legislatures can also help regulatory gaps by independently licensing firearm dealers, as is currently in place in several states, including Hawaii and Pennsylvania. So get a federal license and then have to pay for a state license again, more money for FFLs, make it so that they can't afford to do business. These states allow unlimited inspections of gun dealers by in-state authorities. Licensing schemes should include requirements for state and local inspections, secure premises, employee background checks and training, and public nuisance statutes. States can also require regular transaction reporting to state and or local law enforcement to expedite crime gun tracing. Why is that? Because only the federal government can't keep a firearms registry. Doesn't say anything about states. Maryland has also found success in implementing security requirements, including video surveillance, monitored alarms, physical barriers, and secure storage of firearms when gun dealerships are closed. Employee screening and training requirements, too, can ensure that staff are not prohibited from possessing firearms themselves and that they are well equipped to educate customers on firearm safety and legal obligations. Along these lines, Virginia currently requires prospective employees to pass criminal background checks. Finally, nuisance statutes, such as those in California, Delaware, New Jersey, and New York, enable lawsuits against gun dealers who knowingly violate state gun sales and marketing laws. Collectively, these requirements can help ensure compliance with applicable state laws and prevent theft, burglary, straw purchases, and trafficking from licensed gun dealers. Again, the criminals are the problem, but we're not going to do anything to stop them, because that's the voting base. Now we've gone over federal and state recommendations that you're going to see in different legislatures for the next year or so. Well, they also want to clamp down locally. Local law enforcement offices can contribute to safer licensed gun dealership practices preliminarily through publishing gun tracing reports and prosecuting rogue dealers. Local gun tracing reports should feature data on the number and locations of recovered firearms, plus the dealer and state they originated from. This is so Everytown can collect this data. This data is vital for both identifying patterns of negligence and capturing the impact of local efforts made to address these problems. It could also help local law enforcement agencies decide where to purchase their own guns and ammunition from. Once a pattern of negligent behavior is established, local and state officials should prosecute rogue gun sellers. In one example, the Minnesota Attorney General filed a civil lawsuit against a large retailer with several FFLs for negligently selling dozens of firearms that were later involved in crimes around the Twin Cities, claiming the retailer ignored obvious signs of straw purchasing and requests. When paired together, these local efforts contribute to vital accountability among licensed gun dealers. What they want is a tangled web of enforcement. The feds can inspect you, state police can inspect you, local police can inspect you, constantly having inspections. Why? Because the zero tolerance policy, they want to have you make some type of a mistake accidentally so that they can shut you down and revoke your FFL. This was a frustrating report. It was even more frustrating to get my thoughts down so that I could get them across without losing my cool. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Please share this. This needs to get out. I want to know what you think about it, specifically for an FFL. I know my friends Mike, Kurt, and the like, y'all are FFLs. Hit me up, let me know what you think about this, because Everytown recommends legislation, legislators and the president pick it up because they're in their pocket big time. So this is coming next. Terrible. Thank you for your time, guys and gals. I appreciate each and every single one of you. And I look forward to bringing you the news every single day. And I wish that you would consider subscribing so that you're all in the know of when I put out this type of information. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.